Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stephen Rockwood Show. I am, as you know, Chicken McLicken, and I am here with my special guest, Jared Hamilton. Jared, how are we doing, my friend?
Where do you come up with this stuff? That's
It
that's so different.
usually comes up at about 2 a.m. I'll look at my girlfriend and I'll be like, Chicken McLicken? And she'll be like, that's a terrible one. You should write that down. So I have a Google Sheet full of fake podcast names.
That's the fact that you have a system for that just made you my new best friend.
Oh,
That's great.
I am glad. You can maybe you can help me before we get started. So one I thought of yesterday was cash or credit. So like cash or credit as the name.
hmm
But how do I say that where it sounds like cash or credit while also sounding like a name? That was where we ran into issues.
Think of that as we continue to talk.
Sounds good, but yeah, cash or credit will be on part two of Jared Hamilton. We'll get you on again, and that'll be the cash or credit episode.
Oh, let's remember that. Thanks for having me, my friend. This is absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to be talking to you. I'm excited to be doing this. It's let's rock and roll.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's get a brief background because I have you on here for a reason. So maybe tell the audience why I have Jared Hamilton here and kind of what your journey has looked like so far through your life.
Man, that's a big question. I don't know where to start. It certainly is. It's not a cookie cutter life. There's no corporate ladder. There's no nothing. So let's start from the beginning. So, first and foremost, I always consider myself a farmer. Even though we have multiple businesses, I am at my heart a farmer. Our home is the fifth generation in the family farm. So my kids are the sixth generation to live on the same farm in a
Amazing.
little town that no one's heard of in the province of Quebec, just about an hour outside of Ottawa up in Canada. And we've been here a very long time. I grew up in the business. Our home is surrounded by the farm as most families farms are. And our farm, though, isn't a traditional cash crop or livestock. Our main farm is a sod farm, and that's where I grew up in. When I grew up, there was only the one business, which was Mountain View Turf. And from the time I was 13, I sat my parents down at the kitchen table, very serious conversation to say, I want to join the business. This is what I want to do. I had grown up in it. At 11 years old, my father put me on a 70 horsepower tractor with a set of mowers and took me 2 rounds around the field and then hopped off and said good luck. At 9 years old, I was getting up at 2 a.m. with him to help him move the irrigation to water the fields and to keep them alive during the heat of July. So I literally grew up in this business and wanted to become a part of it. So went off to university and got an education and came back and did physical labor for 5 years to prove a point and the journey continues from there
Oh,
into many other facets.
all right. I like it. I like it. So, what'd you go to college for? If you knew you were going to run the farm, did you pick a degree like around like farming or around business or
Yeah,
where'd you go
both
from
actually.
there?
The 6 miles, so just outside of Toronto, there's a university. There's a town called Guelph, and at the University of Guelph, they actually have a turf grass program. So I graduated early. I graduated high school at 17, and then at 17 moved 6 hours away to Guelph to attend a 2-year diploma course. So I have a diploma in horticulture,
Okay.
specializing in turf grass and business management.
Okay.
Very, very niche, very
That is
specialized.
very niche. I thought being a golf course groundskeeper was a niche degree, but that might actually win.
Yeah, no, and a lot of the guys I went to school with were in the golf course industry.
Okay,
So
yeah.
about half of them in the program were golf course supers. So I know, and we deal with all the golf courses around here. So I know all the supers and assistants and all that. And that alone it is a great network and people, and because they're just like farmers, but they're so niche that it's a small family no matter where you go.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So
hmm
you went to school, you did your hard time for 5 years in the field working with the tools, and then what happened after that? So you were working I guess so if you're working for 5 years, were you working for your own company, like you're the one that you grew up with,
No,
or a different
so
one?
so when I say earning my way,
Yeah.
I that's coming back at 19 and way back when you used to have to pile rolls of sod by hand.
Okay.
So there would be a guy, think of a tractor. and then the roll of sod on somewhat of a conveyor belt, using your imagination, hard to describe. But there'd be one guy driving, one guy in the back, and that roll of sod that weighs about 20 or 30 pounds, you pick it up and you throw it on the pallet. And if you've ever been to a garden center or you've seen a pallet with rolls of sod, that's what I did by hand. And there would be two machines. You'd be doing probably 2 or 3 thousand rolls a day, and maybe sometimes four or five when it gets busy, and you'd be doing that all year. So I did that physical labor of piling sod for 5 years, and it was one of the best jobs I did in my life because I got in great shape because of it, but it also earned me the respect of all the guys on the farm
Yeah.
because I was essentially doing, even though I had gone away and got an education, I came back and essentially did one of the most backbreaking, hardest, laborious jobs on the farm for 5 years.
Yeah.
And so I refused to be, I always had a chip on my shoulder. I refused to be the son of the boss, the son of the owner, and the stereotypical, all the stereotypes that go with it of being spoiled and lazy and all that. I kind of had that chip where I wanted to prove my mettle.
Yeah. No, I like that. So let's talk a little bit about the business of sod then, because I have no idea how this works. So as far as like how your business is run, what do you do for marketing? I
Oh, so every sod farm though is different. That's the
Okay.
thing. There are some sod farms that are just the product. They just sell the sod. And then there's others that are diversified into other turf markets. So we're one of those businesses.
Okay.
So we have the sod farm. We have 700 acres of sod. We also do very specialty sod. So we'll actually do sod specific to golf courses like bent grass, which is goes on the putting greens, and dwarf bluegrass, which is for the tee decks.
Okay.
Uh, we will also do turf maintenance where we're not mowing grass for people, but we'll go onto it like an athletic field or a golf course and we will overseed, we will top dress, we will fertilize, we'll do aeration. We have a supply and install crew for sod. We have renovated football fields, soccer fields. We have redone bunkers and greens for golf courses. We retail a bunch of turf related products, so seed, fertilizer, bulk landscape material, so topsoil, garden soil, mulch, a bunch of other products like that. So very, very much like of a diversified business within the sod farm itself.
Awesome. Yeah, that's I would have no idea. I had a friend once who named a type of grass. He's like, "Oh, you have this type of grass in your front yard." And I was like, "Those are words I've never heard strung together." But sure, that's the grass. You say blue
I
dwarf?
am
You say blue dwarf
Yeah.
grass? Okay.
So one of the main cool season grasses is Kentucky bluegrass, and so
Okay.
we grow a dwarf variety of that. So instead of it being mowed at like 2.5 inches, it's mowed at like 3/4 of an inch.
Okay. That would make
Yeah,
sense.
and so it's nice and short to. I'm one of those guys. I'm always wondered about people in certain professions whenever they go out, if they look, so like if you're a dentist and you meet people, are you always looking at their teeth? Because I can tell, like when I go golfing, which is like hardly ever, or if I go to somebody's place like your friend did to your lawn, I'm looking
Yeah.
at their lawn and I'm seeing what it's like, and I think each of us in our own profession kind of does that.
Yeah, no, I would 100% agree. I had a roommate whose dad was a dentist, and his only criteria for dating was the person he was dating had to have good teeth. Did not matter anything else. If they didn't have
Huh.
good teeth, it was over.
Wow.
And he wasn't even the
That's
dentist, he was just the son of one.
Wow. That's strict criteria right
Yeah.
there. That's really good.
I don't think there's a
So
section for
with
that in your bio.
mi- imagine. Oh, that's a whole other conversation. So that's the sod farm. That's the business of what we do. You'd asked about social media and marketing. You know,
Yeah,
it's we try to we really try to throw forward our approach of, of being the farmer, of being the humble farmer who has the experience and wants to help. We don't want to look. We don't want to try to come off as corporate because we're not. We want to be the ones that are going to answer your questions that you have about and to actually help you along the process. Because the reality is, somebody who's buying sod, unless you are like a landscaper or a contractor, if you're buying sod for your house, you're only doing it like once every 20 years.
yeah,
So we're only going to talk once, but if you've never done it before, unless you have past experience working for somebody. But so everything is new, the prep, how to order, how to how to water, how to take care of it because it's a plant, right?
Mm-hmm.
Too many people forget the fact that it's an actual plant. So if you were to buy vegetables at the grocery store and leave it out in, I'm gonna go Celsius, in 30-degree Celsius weather,
Mm-hmm.
it's gonna spoil. It's the same as a roll of sod. And
Fair.
so we really try to market ourselves as the ones that are going to walk with you every step of the way and take care of you because we want it to transition from our home, our farm, to your home as smoothly as possible. And because it's not something that people do very often, there's a lot of questions and steps along the way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, since they don't do it very often, is it something that you do? Do you do a lot of the marketing on like the online marketing side, or do you do mostly traditional, or do you do a mix, like a split? Or I guess where's the most successful marketing for you?
Oh, man, that's a tough one. So you look at the different client bases, right? And this is where we have so many conversations ourselves with marketing because of the many things we do, we have residential clients, we have commercial clients, we have government clients like school boards and that. But Ottawa and Gatineau are a very small community. There's only 1 million people in Ottawa. There's only, and across the river on the Quebec side, there's only 300,000. So we're only marketing to an area of 1.3 million people. And so it really is finding, okay, residential isn't our biggest market for clients,
Yeah.
or for the percentage of sales, but it's like anything else in any other business, it's the best margin.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually 2 or 3 years ago, we went and redid everything. We redid our website, we redid our brand, our name, we now have, we're among the first to create an online sales store for sod
Oh
because
wow.
even that it was difficult because it's a new buying behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Historically, with sod, you pick up the phone, you flip through the yellow books. If you're under 30, you might not know what that is, but you'd pick up the phone, or somebody who knows some got sod at some point. Where'd you get it from? You pick up the phone, you order it. It arrives. We're completely changing the buying behavior, having an online store now where people can actually click and it's like ordering sod from Amazon almost. It's very
Okay.
simple. You can place the order and that. So we really wanted to target that online and this the social media presence about, like I said, about the humble, helpful farmer. Because it's sod farms, when it comes to contractors, are very competitive.
Yeah.
Everybody already has their farm that they buy from, and unless that farm ticks them off, they're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter if you slash prices, doesn't matter. Contractors are very loyal to their sod farm for the most part. And so you can market to them, you can make sure that you know that you're here. You can have them on an email list to, again, it's that reminder, hey, we're starting to cut, hey, we're finished for the season, a few. But the reality is, it's such a small market. They know who you are. There's
Mm-hmm.
there's four sod farms that feed into Ottawa,
Okay.
and so unless you're not from the area, we know. Even if someone buys from a competitor of ours, we know who they are. We've
Yeah.
dealt with them. We know their names and everything. So you're not going to find new business when it comes to that.
Fair. Would
Yeah,
it?
and then the other client that I was saying about school boards and cities, it's all contracts. So you just have to know when the contract comes out to bid on it and get the
Yeah.
job.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I worked for a construction company for 4 years, and it was pretty much the exact same thing. You have to go do the bids on the government contracts. You'd have to market to commercial, but they were pretty hard to get through because a lot of them had their concrete person or their asphalt team already, and then for the residential, it was a completely different ball game because trying to sell a $2 million construction project is a lot different than a $40,000 driveway, and it's the same salesperson.
mhm.
So,
Yep.
um,
No, so you know exactly what I'm talking about.
yeah, yeah, and it's I think the hardest part. So when you were making your new website, did you pick who you're catering that website to? It sounds like it might be the residential since you can order.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. We still put in the section for the contractors and the others because we want them to know what services we provide for the turf maintenance, and we want them to know that we do serve obviously contractors and that. But when we were looking at the analytics of who was coming to our website, it was like 90% residential.
Yeah.
So okay, that's obvious then. We got to focus on. And then so our although we want to continue to grow and expand the business, the it is good for that portion. The justification was that we're probably growing that market by about, since we redid our marketing, we're probably growing what we're getting our portion of about 30% a year
Okay.
for residential. So seeing as that's such a high margin for us, it made complete sense.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, I ordered
Hmm.
gym flooring for my basement here a couple years ago, and that process sounds like it's probably about the same as ordering the sod. But is it just where you basically tell you the measurements, you pick the type you want, and then just it tells you how many rolls of sod you're getting for for that?
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
and then we have it on the calendar because we know our schedule for the most part about what sectors of the cities we're going to if we're going up the line, down the line, north, east, south, west sort of deal.
yeah,
And so we allow the client then in the calendar to choose what day they want the delivery on. And then if there's an issue, we will call them, and we have a whole bunch of services. They're nice about, getting the text and email whenever the truck driver is 30 minutes away so they can be prepped if they have a crew there, or
nice.
the follow-ups and everything, and the email marketing and all that. So it was a huge job to set up, absolutely huge.
Yeah.
But now that those systems are in place, still a few I want to tweak, but now that those systems are in place, they really do work well.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, random question, not super important, but is there an inventory system attached to your online ordering? Like, if I ordered 700 acres of sod on your website, would it be like, all right, we're sold out, or is it just kind of like you're never going to sell out, so it doesn't really matter?
Yeah, we know we're never going to sell out. And so we can go back to the farm standpoint. In our I spoke to a sod farmer in Rhode Island this winter. Great guy. We had a great chat about cover crops and crop rotation and all that, which is exciting for me and boring for others. But he was able to, from the time he put the seed in the ground to the time he was able to harvest was a period of 7 to 8 months.
Okay.
That same species, Kentucky bluegrass, takes me 2 or 3 years just because of the different climates.
Wow.
Yeah, from Rhode Island to up in Canada, just because our winters are longer and down there they'll have higher growing seasons. But with farming is never 100% perfect. Some fields, are going to do better than others, and you have different weather and droughts and I mean we all know about the different weather that we've been getting lately
Hmm.
over the past year. So let's not get into that. But I'll have fields that are ready at 2 years. I'll have fields that are ready at 3 to 4 years.
Okay.
I've had a couple fields in my lifetime where they were ready in 13 months, which
Yeah.
was like, yes, let's go. But because of the different fields and the different acreages, and you're always we have never run out.
Yeah.
How about that?
Fair.
Yeah, we've come close where a field might not be ready and need another 4 to 6 weeks, but then we finish that field, and by the time we're done that field, that other one's ready to go.
Okay. Yeah. That sounds pretty cool. So,
That's a
how
long answer to say no, we don't keep inventory
That's
online.
that's fair. It's a random question, but it piqued my
Hmm.
interest. All right, so you own the sod farm. You own a bunch of other stuff. So how about you tell us a little bit about the other businesses you've expanded to over the years?
Sure. So, just to backtrack a little bit, so the sod farm Mountain View was started by my parents and my grandfather, and because up here you don't sell much sod in January, they had to find another income. My father worked in the city plowing snow,
Okay.
and for a government organization. That government organization disbanded, and he and my mom started another company in Ottawa called Gemma Property Services, and it does outdoor property maintenance for government sites. So, like for example, there's a bunch of sites that surround Parliament Hill. There's parks, there's memorials, there's monuments and everything. We will take care of mowing the grass for those, getting rid of any graffiti, any flower beds, any civil work like benches or picnic benches or any interlock or anything like that. We'll take care of the waste collection. We'll take care of the snow and ice removal. So we have another company that does entirely that. Mountain View is about 40 people. Gemma's about 60 people.
Okay.
But with that business, there is zero marketing because it's 100% government based.
Yeah.
The website is basically your business card.
Yeah.
Here's who we are, our contact information, some nice pictures. Here's how good we are. There's your website. You do no marketing, no nothing for that. Something and Facebook just to make sure that people who you want on your team actually know that you're a legitimate company.
Yeah. That's fair.
It is so different. It is so different. So, my sister and I have always been, it's just the two of us in the family. We've always been involved in this, in the family businesses. And so in 2020, we officially bought out my parents from both companies, Mountain View and Gemma.
Okay.
And so we own those. To complicate it, on the same farm in 2009, my wife and I started an egg farm. We started with 6,700 chickens, and we grew it now to where it's 13,000.
Jeez,
13,000 hens
6,700
for eggs.
is still a huge start in my brain. When I think, ooh, I'm gonna start having some chickens, I think like six.
So you got to remember, up in Canada we have quota, right? And
Yeah,
it's quota that is keeping us in half decent shape right now for everything that's going on with chickens and eggs,
yeah,
right? So, and I know it's a big political point because for what it's worth, being the farmer in the quota system, even though I had to buy into it, it's phenomenal because
yeah,
what it does is it's a control market. Like we don't have to go, we do sell some eggs out the door at the office, but because of the quota system, every province knows exactly how many eggs it has to produce on an annual basis and therefore does the math how many chickens.
yeah.
And so it regulates how many chickens. And then you can, when you buy quota, it's like, okay, if I was to buy 1 unit of quota, I'm buying one chicken.
Hmm.
So, but the problem is it's expensive to get into. And Quebec as a province was starting to run out of producers. The old lads were retiring. The next generation didn't want to take over the family farm, but it was too expensive to get in. So they actually had to create an entrance program, almost like a lottery, where you had to submit a business plan that was like an inch and a half thick and go, and it was through a point system. And the person who won would be awarded 5,000 units of quota. You didn't own it as a capital asset because 5,000 units of quota is worth 1.3 million, but you had the right to produce it and earn the revenue from it.
Okay.
And for us, that's how there's a name for you, by the way, Jolly Egg Farm, which is my wife
Oh,
and I, Jared and Holly.
it's a good one.
Jolly Egg Farm was started. Thank you. I
Uh,
thought you'd appreciate that.
yeah, I like that one. I like that one. I'll steal that one.
But again, from it's interesting, right? Because we do pay a levy to the Quebec Egg Federation, but it's the Quebec Egg Federation and the Egg Farmers Canada that do all the marketing.
Okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, and you're guaranteed margin. It's a great business
Yeah.
because you're guaranteed to sell your product. You it's hard to expand because without going large, like you just said, 6,000 instead of six,
Yeah.
right? So when you go in, you're going in with a lot of debt, and I have a lot of scars and a lot of stories from that. But it's when you're set up into it, and we're 16 years now. We just got our 16th flock because you exchange them every 12 months.
Okay.
Um, it's a nice cash flow business.
Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
Random again, what do you feed said chickens? I had this conversation with my girlfriend yesterday, and I was like, what do you feed egg laying chickens? And I had no idea. So I was like, I'm going to ask
Okay.
Jared tomorrow.
Would love to know how this conversation came up. It's it's actually really boring. So it's like crumbs of corn, beans, it's like soybean. You can actually have shell rock in there, which is
Okay.
like oyster clam shells because they contain calcium, and various other little trace different cash crops. That's most of it. Is it's like crumble corn, crumble things like that, and what you do is depending on where the hen is in its age and its laying productivity,
Hmm.
you can adjust the protein levels, you can adjust the calcium in it, you can adjust the calories, so that you can really dictate how you want that bird to grow from a health perspective because you don't want it to be underfed, you
Hmm.
don't want it to be overfed, you don't want it to eat too much, right? So you're constantly weighing your birds to make sure, not all of them, but you take a you randomly grab them every week and weigh them to make sure that they're on the right course for their weight and everything like that,
Hmm.
and you very much adjust your feed, the type of feed, in order to take care of them and control that.
Okay. So you basically have bodybuilding chickens and you're tracking their macros. It's
So
essentially.
you know what? what's so two different type of chickens. You have your broilers, which are for meat birds, and
Yeah.
you have your layers, which are for laying eggs, right?
Yeah.
Your broilers, if you were to compare that, I would tell you they're your bodybuilders
Yeah.
because you're trying to put meat on them as quick as possible. You want them to bulk up.
Yeah.
Your layers, they're like marathon runners.
Okay.
They have to do the work over a long period of time. So you're really making sure, yes, your macros, your calories and everything, but for a completely different purpose.
Fair.
You're right. When you're going for a run, you got to have maybe the gel packs going. You got to make sure that you're well hydrated, right? Because you have a long distance to go.
Yeah.
You're not standing on a stage once a year
Yep.
where everyone's judging your composition.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, how did you decide to jump into the egg world? Like you told me the benefits, the pros of it, but what made you decide like, hey, I want to jump into this egg farming world?
It was a complete business decision. Again, farming history, back in roughly 2007, 2008, China started buying up all the fertilizer
Okay.
from North America. And so we were seeing prices of fertilizer go from $300 or $400 a ton to eight, seven, eight, $900
Well,
within a 12 to 18 month period. It
yeah.
was huge. It was absolutely huge. And so when my dad and I were looking at that, it's like we got to find something else other than this synthetic fertilizer to help to boost our soil health. And we looked at natural sources of fertilizer, which of course is manure.
Yeah.
The problem is no farmer wants to give away or sell their manure. They want to use it on their own fields to
Fair.
like completely. And for the volume that we would need, some sell it to be like you can get composted cow manure in a bag or something like that. But for the volume that we needed, we actually needed significantly more. But again, no farmers. So we actually looked at turkeys for a period of time.
Okay.
But turkeys they're grumpy.
They
I
are
don't know if you've
grumpy.
ever seen a live, yeah,
Yeah.
they are so grumpy and to raise turkeys is very very labor intensive.
Hmm.
And so we passed on that. We saw a turkey farm and said no. And then when we were at our local Ministry of Agriculture office, just he said, you know what? Let's there's this program available that with your education, with your background and what you want to accomplish, I think you would be a good candidate.
Nice.
And so that was yeah, so that was in the spring of 2008, and then we submitted it in June. We brought it got all the way up to the top where of the board of directors where you go for a meeting and they dictate whether you're going to go to the next level, which is literally like bingo. A bunch of names
Okay.
get put into a basket, and then like there's a lawyer there to make it legal and everything.
Yeah.
And that was oh sorry 2007, and then our name was not picked. We got to the finalists, and
Oh
our name was
no.
not picked. Yeah, and that was tough because you have to get a third party to build your business plan. So it
Okay.
was like 10
Oh,
grand
expensive.
to
Yeah.
build the business. Yeah. And so we went back the next year. We decided we wanted to try it again. We did that much better. We worked at a couple places. We thought of everything, environmental, everything, everything, everything. And so we did the same thing. We had written down the notes of the questions that we were asked during the previous year's interview with the board of directors. And so we had already pre kind of figured out what we were going
Yeah.
to say because it was the exact same questions.
Fair.
Made it to the top, and then in the fall, in October of 2008, had the phone call that we were going to be egg farmers.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
yeah, and so we in 2009, in March of 2009, we had our first baby girl named Faith. And then in April, we began excavation. In May, we poured the slab. And then on September 15th of 2009, we received 6,700 chickens.
that's amazing. How do they get the chickens to you? How do 6,700 chickens show up on your front step?
They truckloads.
Truckloads of
Absolute,
chickens.
yeah, absolute truckloads. So there are in the you got me on the chicken industry. You're digging into those questions,
I
eh?
am.
That's
I
no
know.
problem.
So many eggs.
That's it's okay because I find it. I'll tell you this, and then I'll tell you the interesting because my sister has her own business with a greenhouse that's on the farm here, and I'll have an interesting correlation to that,
Okay.
where with chickens you have different industries within the egg and the broiler industries. So you have the hatchery. So there are companies, there are businesses, and that's all they do. They bring in the eggs, have them fertilized, let them crack, raise the chicks for and like have the eggs for 21 days, let them be as chicks, have the chicks for a week or two, and that's their business. That's
Hmm.
all they do. The chicks go away, and then they start a new batch of eggs and chicks. That's the hatchery. Then you have the pullet farm. And the pullet farm is what they're doing is they are getting the chicks at, I'm sorry, I can't remember at what age, but they're getting the chicks and then they're raising them in their barn
Okay.
until 19 weeks of age. And
Okay.
so and that's all they do. So they're raising them from chicks to pullets, and then at the end of 19 weeks, what happens is they take them out of the barn, they transport them in cages on dollies for safety, so make sure they don't beat on each other or they don't get hurt, or in the wintertime, make sure they have enough warmth, for example.
Yeah.
And then at 19 weeks of age, they get moved to our farm. We put them in our barn, and at 19 weeks, they transition from being a pullet to an actual hen, which means they're just starting to lay eggs.
Okay.
And then we have them for 12 months.
Nice. So they basically start off at the hospital. They're born, then they move on to grade school, they graduate that, and then they show up on your farm.
I have in 16 years I have never had anyone compare it to school. But that's essentially that's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it works. That's exactly how the industry works.
All right. That's pretty cool. See, that's
Mhm.
why I need to have people like you on the show because I have no idea how any of this works. I would never have a clue. So this is fun.
But if you think of consistency in market, right? So our job is to maintain egg production throughout the year,
Yeah.
right? So we don't have the space or the time to take care of the eggs and the chicks and the pullets, right? So it's to our advantage because of our business model to always be producing eggs and buy them from the pullet grower.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah, you're pretty much all on an assembly line of business. Like you all need each other's business to make yours work, and then you're set.
Yeah, exactly. And so now, all these years later, with the chickens, we produce about 200 or 300 tons of chicken manure,
Okay.
which we're able to both put on the field, which has huge health benefits. And this year, I'm learning to mix it with green compost and different types of plant material in order to do proper composting
Okay.
and using it as the nitrogen source. And that's a whole other rabbit hole that I've gone down and been passionate for is sustainable agriculture, regenerative agriculture, and composting and cover crops and compost extracts and all that. So that so the purpose of starting the egg farm was the manure, the fertilizer aspect for the fields.
Yeah.
And now here we are and we have it.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. All right. So you have chickens. We
Mhm.
have sod, and then I remember you telling me that you have a Christmas tree farm. Is that?
Yes. So the Christmas tree farm. They're all interrelated, just so you know. There's
Yeah.
always a reason for everything. Just because we have 700 acres doesn't mean that we have 700 acres of perfect, pristine land. There are pockets within our properties that are either too small for it to be a field. So like there might be a creek, for example, and on the other side of that creek there's 3 acres.
Hmm.
Well, what are you going to do with 3 acres? Especially sometimes those 3 acres are like pure clay. Sod needs a very specific soil type in order to grow properly. It's a more of a sandy loam. It does best in loam soils.
Okay.
It does not do well in clay. So, okay, so there's 3 acres there and it's pure clay. I can't grow sod. And because it's 3 acres, it's too small to do any cash crop. I'm not going to grow corn or I'm not going to grow beans or anything in there because it's too small to justify owning any of that equipment. So what am I going to do with it? Well, we tried a whole bunch of different crops. We tried sunflowers, we tried everything, but nothing did really well in that soil type. Until I remembered that we had been in an award ceremony for our farm about 10 years ago. And at the table at the supper, I was talking to a lad from Quebec, and he was an old French lad. He was 90 years old,
Okay.
and he grew Christmas trees. He had a Christmas tree farm. And I remember chatting with him, good old lad. And at the time, it took 10 years to produce Christmas trees.
Wow.
And he said that that year's crop that he had planted of Christmas trees, he was really looking forward to seeing how they would turn out and to harvest when he was 100.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
so that conversation always struck me and interested me. And in my life, I love going for the niche, and I love going for the things that take time to
Yeah.
produce. I'm not I've never something like a fast turnover or something like that. You can see that with the sod, it takes 2 or 3 years. You can see that with the chickens where it's like you have them for a full year. We had to wait and to produce the manure and all that. And so the Christmas trees was something that fascinated me because it takes 7 years in order for to get them from the sapling to the time they're big enough to sell them as a Christmas tree.
Okay.
And so we thought, why not? And so 3 years ago, we planted our first 3 acres of Christmas trees, 3,600 trees,
Okay.
and then another 3,600 last year, and then there'll be another 3,600. So we'll have over 10,000 Christmas trees this year.
Jeez. That's
Now it's
crazy.
hard to call it's hard to call it a business when you're at it for 3 years and you haven't sold a single product.
Yeah, that is fair. Yeah, because
Okay. Yeah.
so for Christmas trees, just like the eggs, like can you sell them to people that like to wholesalers essentially, or would you be selling them to consume like to me for Christmas?
Yeah. What I would like every business different, right? Some
Hmm.
businesses are you cut where you go with your family and the kids and pull them in the sleigh and have hot cocoa and warm yourself by the fire and you cut your own tree and you bring it home and you put it up. That's not the model I want to do.
Yeah.
Not because I don't think it's a terrible model. It's wonderful for culture. It's wonderful for the experience and memories. And you know what? We have 4 more years before I have to decide fully.
Yeah.
I do like the wholesale approach, just because as a business, sod season is usually done for us in November.
Okay.
This allows us to this would allow for our workforce and our equipment to transition to something else for 3 weeks. Um, and then we do snow removal. We do
Okay.
a ton of snow removal. So I like the idea of, okay, here, let's get it done. We got 2 weeks to get all the Christmas trees cut, wrapped, delivered, sent off, and then we transition into our next season rather than it lingering and
Yeah.
waiting, who's going to show up, and you have somebody taking the money and giving the directions plus insurance. I have no idea how Christmas trees get insured with people using saws and axes
Yeah.
to cut down their own
No.
trees,
Yeah. No clue.
with kids who have never done it before.
Yeah.
And
With
and
six
so the
thousand
plan is to
chickens in near sight to come attack them.
they nice. And so that is the plan for the Christmas tree farm.
I like it. I like it. Now I'm just picturing 6,000 chickens like running over a hill together, and then just like you just running away like a cartoon.
Have you ever seen the GIF where it has a chicken and it's mimicking Captain America Avengers
Oh
Assemble
yeah,
and it has them all running over the hill?
yeah.
That's what you're
That is
picturing?
pretty much
That's
what I'm
that's
picturing.
that
Just six
you're
thousand of
picturing my
those.
farm being like that.
Yeah. Just the Christmas tree part when if a chicken
Mm.
finds out that you're cutting down their trees, protective of their Christmas trees, or so I've heard.
Oh, no, no, no. They're completely separated. Actually, they're on different farms too, so that don't have to worry about that.
Okay, yeah, that was gonna be my question actually. Is all your property attached, or are you separated, just like different areas around you?
The main home farm is about 350 acres.
Okay.
And so the main home farm is my sister has her house here across the road from me. I have the old farmhouse that was built in 1895 where I'm raising the five kids. The office
Nice.
is like 100 feet away from my house, which is just horrible. And then
Yeah,
all
that
the
commute
shop
sounds
and
rough.
oh, have you ever had a bad day and you just have that drive home for 20 minutes to decompress a little
Oh
bit,
yeah.
to breathe, to just vent to yourself or think what you should have said instead of what you actually said in the back of your head and then
Yeah.
grumble that you didn't think of it before or anything? I don't have that.
No, you
I
get
don't I
to
ne I never have that.
Yeah, you get to put earbuds in, and by the time you've chosen a song, you're already at your house from your office. So
Yeah.
you don't, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. So that whole, and I mean, anybody working from home would understand that emotional where you don't have that disconnect,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
right?
No, it is
It's
tough.
it is tough. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's to divide one from the other. And I don't know, I mean the pendulum always swings both ways, and I don't know if you ever figured out where the balance is, because sometimes your business needs you more, sometimes your home needs you more.
Hmm.
But when both is at the same location, that's tough.
Yeah.
That is so, so tough. But you know what? I get to have lunch with my wife and the two youngest that are at home right now almost every day, whenever it's not too busy with the sod season and everything like that. So
Yeah.
there's benefits, right? There's always benefits. But to answer your question, my sister's greenhouse, the egg farm, and our first parcel, which is 3 acres of Christmas trees, is all on the same farm.
Okay.
And then there's other farms that are like 100 acres each or so, 100 to 150 that are close by. I think the furthest farm we have is only, oh, forgive me, I don't know what it is in miles. It's 9 kilometers away. I have
Fair.
no idea what that is in
I
miles.
do not either, to be honest, but we'll
Yeah.
call it between 9 and 22 miles.
Yes.
No
Perfect.
clue.
Yeah. No, at all. So, all that to say, they're not very far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're within driving distance of a tractor.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, back roads. So they're a bunch are connected, but anything that aren't too far away, and they're a big enough parcel that it makes it worth being there with equipment.
Yeah. All right. I like it. I like it. Well, let me get you off your farm topic for a bit and just on the business side. Do you have any advice for people that either are jumping into business and trying to grow their business, or maybe they're in the family business and just like, have you had any lessons learned or things that you've learned as far as growing a business and, how to do that successfully, even if there's some stumbles along the way?
Well, I have thought about this since before hopping on with you, and there are so many different directions that I could take it. We did have a succession plan going into the business, which
Yeah.
gave us a general structure, but I would tell you also was almost a complete waste of time because you set the plan for 10 or 12 years, but the reality is that no business stays the same for 10 or 12 years.
Hmm.
Your business changes and adapts as and then so do you ultimately, right? And so you can't have there's no such thing as the perfect succession plan in a family business. What I would tell you was helpful for us was, especially for my sister and I, when we started looking at personality profiles, like the DISC personality profile.
Yeah.
So we studied that. We studied Patrick Lencioni, anything written by him. His genius in how people work, and that is just any book at all is incredible. His widget program actually is fantastic as well for where your strengths are.
Okay.
So especially for my sister and I, when we stopped, because we hated each other as kids, we really did. Absolutely. The fact that we ended up in business as business partners is just astounding, right? Um, but when we learned, and we're polar opposites, of course, and so when we learned that, something that might be annoying us about the other person isn't because they're trying to be annoying, that's actually an innate character
Hmm.
trait that they have. My sister is very aggressive. She has no problem having hard conversations. She has no problem if she's put out, watch out,
Yeah.
right? And whereas I've had to learn to be better at awkward conversations, to be a better communicator,
Yeah.
to be clear because I can't expect people to know what's going on in my head, which is a scary place to begin with. Um, but there are situations where you need that forcefulness, that it has to be said, it has to be addressed.
Hmm.
She's much better at that. I can do it, but it drains me,
Yeah.
right? Whereas for her, it fills her up with energy. I'm the one that they're bringing in whenever there's something has to be calmed down. I'm the one that calms the waters. I have a tendency to have that late night radio voice to just, all right, what are we gonna do here?
Hmm.
Someone tell me what happened. Just level everybody out and how do we move on peacefully, operationally, everything like that. My sister is incredibly well organized. I'm a train wreck. If you see, my desk is just all over the is papers all over the place.
Fair.
Um, I believe in I'm a huge proponent of personal development and growth mindset. My sister is very much a person of action. It's
Mm-hmm.
like she doesn't want to talk about it. She just wants to do it, and then when it's done, go and do the next thing.
Yeah.
So we complement each other that way, whereas because she might lose direction of just going thing to thing to thing to thing to thing without knowing that her time is limited and she can only work on so many big wheel things. Whereas sometimes I can get too far into the planning and strategy process where it's like, yes, this is where I want to go, this is the vision, this is what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
but we still have to do things to get there. It's
Yeah.
like what, and like I said earlier, it's going to take time to get there and things are going to change. So you only have the vision, have the plan, but understand that you got to get to a certain point first and then see if that still makes sense.
Yeah.
So family business, that was a huge aha moment for my sister and I taking over from my parents. And then it also gave us grace to understand our parents' personalities. And even though they didn't take the personality profile, we could still be more patient with them,
Yeah.
knowing, you know what? And instead of just saying, dad, you know the way dad is, it would be like, no, dad's like this because of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's reacting because of that. And we just have to understand that it's
Yeah.
not right or it's not wrong. It's just the way that he deals with it.
Yeah.
He's not being stubborn. It's just the way that there's frustrations, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
right? But that was huge for us in family business.
Yeah. And
I would
the
also go ahead.
I was just gonna go off that and just say that that whole personality thing. I used to not like read too much into it because I've always been pretty good at reading people. So in my brain, I'm like, yeah, that's who they are. But then we actually took those at a company I worked at probably 8 years ago, a marketing agency, and like everyone's personalities like fit where I assumed they would, but like the leadership team had no clue. They couldn't read people at all. So when they saw that, then they actually started making different groups of people and stuff based on that, and our efficiency skyrocketed. We were
Oh,
so much
I
better
believe it.
because people
Yeah.
like understood where other people were coming from in their meetings, and then we stacked the meetings so that you'd have a diverse team, but at the same time you'd have people who were like backing each other up but also knew where each other were coming from. So it just made everything so much more streamlined, and even made it so we could come up with solutions to things that we always used to come up with like one solution, like this is the only thing we're going to do. And then for the sales team, there were three different personality types on there, so that one solution didn't really work for all of them. So then we could have them all chip in and be like, hey, like what do you need? And then we could come up with a solution or two that would fit everybody, and it made such a big difference.
Oh, it does. We had somebody present. It was part of the hockey association that my kids belong to, and for my oldest boy, out of the five kids, three play hockey, and I'm a coach for two. I'm an assistant coach for two.
Okay.
And we had somebody come in and speak to my oldest boy's team about the DISC personality test, and did a full presentation and actually did an assessment of the team, but also showed that it's like in sports and in business, and when you're on the ice, when you're playing that sport, you need to be the lion.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter if you're not innately, but you need because everyone has a certain percentage of each type, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some are just more dominant than the other. And it's like, look at for this percentage, whatever it is, when you hit the ice, when you're playing that sport, be the lion, be the
Mm-hmm.
high D, be dominant because it shows when they do the personality studies in the NHL or all these ones, the teams that win are the teams that have the most people becoming that quadrant as they're playing the sport,
Mm-hmm.
that know how to be act and play with those traits,
Yeah.
and it completely transformed the team.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
So
so,
that was so that's one.
yeah, I was gonna
Ask me
say.
about business advice and everything. That's like one of 100.
Yeah. Well, let's see. How about if you have any something that maybe went wrong, or something, or like a hiccup you found along the way, and just kind of how you navigated that. I think that'd be a fun story that you probably have
Oh,
sitting in there somewhere.
fun story. I have deep stories of crisis and despair and pain.
Yeah.
I have lighthearted stories and stuff that sucked and that you laugh at afterwards.
Yeah.
Where do you want to
Let's
go?
let's go lighthearted that you laughed at afterwards. That sounds good. I like that.
Okay. Lighthearted story of learning. It is I'm trying to think of all the things I've done wrong and then and pick from that catalog because when I've done stuff wrong, I've done stuff with zeros on the end of it,
Oh yeah.
right? And so that you learn from those experiences. Pain is a good teacher,
Yeah.
right? Um I would tell you that, man, I don't know how applicable it is, but I would find I've always found that with all the different businesses, each you would think that there is like a blueprint for team culture,
Hmm.
that it is easy. Here's the team culture that you want to have in the most efficient and the most and everything, and here's how to achieve it across the board in every organization. And it's not like
Hmm.
that at all. Every business is like having different kids.
Yeah.
Every business has, because every business has its own dynamic. And when you try to integrate one cultural thing into the other business, sometimes it works. Most of the time, it fails
Yeah.
completely. But what you can start to believe is like, okay, we grew up, I grew up with the turf farm, and it's its own culture,
Hmm.
right? And it's more of everybody knows each other. Everybody knows has known each other because for generations, because it's everybody that lives around our small town, right? And so we can have a a summer barbecue, and there's people that are bringing their guitars. I'm playing my fiddle.
Yeah.
They're singing. There's horseshoes. And everyone is having a great time. It's a
Hmm.
simple barbecue. You do that for Gem in the city, not at all.
Yeah.
They don't want that. They want maybe something, a barbecue and the picnic. Everybody's chatting. After a couple hours, everyone's eaten, and there's a speech from the boss. Everyone go home for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And when I first saw that, I'm like, well, this is horrible. This is
Hmm.
terrible. Nobody's interacting like the same way. Nobody's laughing. We would have our summer parties. People would stay till like midnight,
Yeah.
and have a great time. They're gone after a couple hours. But you know what? That's what they wanted.
Hmm.
And that's okay. It didn't make it wrong. It just made it different. And
Yeah.
there were a few things that the city ones, they kind of like more of the kooky things and things that make you laugh and make funny videos, at the spring meeting and when you're gearing up for the season, and let's do this, and they're all for it.
Hmm.
Our gang here back at the farm don't even ask.
Yeah.
Don't even task them to make a funny video that to try to trend on TikTok because
Yeah.
they're not doing it, right?
That is fair.
Yeah.
Which,
So that's a big lesson. And again, I don't, not everybody has multiple businesses, but just that understanding that there are different cultures within different organizations.
yeah, for sure. Which actually, I was going to ask you this question earlier, and this is a good time to do it. When it comes to your businesses, when you expand to a new one, do you generally hire new people for that business, like for that operation, or do you like pull from your other ones and train them, or hope that you have a Christmas tree expert already in the wheelhouse? Like, how does that process
I
look?
one thing that I'm working on developing right now is some KPIs and within each business, but with that, how to the next step of advancement, right? About what it's and not doing it from a corporate standpoint about climbing the ladder, but
Hmm.
actually being very individual with each person about what their life goals are.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm just starting down that path. I by no means do I say I'm an expert with it. It's my goal though, because it's what I want within the companies. So far, what we've done is hired in
Hmm.
with a new company. We have somebody that you've known for a decade, maybe in another industry, and it's like, no, that's the person I want to lead the company, the day-to-day operations, or that person would do this perfect, and I want to go grab them.
Yeah.
That's how we've built the company. But we have seen little things where it's like, you know what? That person would be so much stronger doing this job over there.
Yeah.
And even and even though it would hurt to remove them here in the training, we know innately they're going to excel over there.
Hmm.
And so it's to bridge that gap between one and the other. And we're going to be looking for at that. And as more things progress in the future, don't really have any big plans for expansion or another business No, that's not true. Not. I do have plans for another business this year, but it's just me.
Fair.
But nothing in the works this year or maybe even next year. We're just letting things settle down from some things that have happened over the past couple of years. But we're going to be, as I'm developing those KPIs and personal advancements and everything, I'm going to be looking for more opportunities where, okay, maybe we do move that person into this position to work more internally. We're
Yeah.
very blessed to have a low turnover. We're very blessed to have good people that are good at what they do. That you give them the vision of a task that you want to accomplish, and they'll figure out a way to get it done.
Yeah.
And so it really is hard to move somebody like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I was going to say, even working for the construction company, I found a lot of the guys in the field, like once they got to the level they wanted to be at, they were happy. They're like, this is where I wanted to be, whether it's a roller operator, a concrete finisher, maybe they just stopped at laborer. Some of them wanted to be foremen and superintendents, but a lot of the time they had this goal in mind and it was one position, and once they got there they were like, yep, this is what I want to do for the rest of my working days. Like, I don't want to go up, I don't want to go back down, I just want to stay right here doing this. And it was kind of nice because you have this crew where you could keep the same crews together for 10 years and they'd all have the same job titles, even though they'd been working there for 10 years at that point, and they didn't care. They were just like, this is what I want to do. If you're going to pay me more, keep my title the same, I don't care, just give me a raise.
Yep. Yep. Can you relate to that mindset?
um, in a way, but if I only did one thing, there's no way I could do that. Like, if I only had one full-time job and that was the only work I could do in my entire life, I could not do the same thing over and over and over and stay at the same place. But if I could use that for stability while working on my stuff on the side, where I get to, be a little more creative or do a bunch of different things, then I'd be okay with it. But I know from personal experience that if I was a construction worker, I would not have time to do the side hustle stuff because my energy would be drained by the time I got home.
Yep. It always fascinates me how, I mean, the world really is made in with a good balance of different people,
Hmm.
because I would be horrible with that. I
Yeah.
could never be a dairy farmer milking at the same time twice a day, morning and evening, right? Every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Nope, that would be the same as a factory job for me, which would be a prison. Now, you know what? I 100% respect someone that works in a factory, or my in-laws are dairy farmers, and that's why I'm allowed to use that
Yeah.
analogy, right? Because they are amazing, hardworking, innovative people that I love to death. But I just know my personality. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I need the change up. I need to be doing this, doing that, not for the sake of busyness, but just because yeah, I've always needed to learn. I need to continually be learning new things and implementing and trying and changing, which drives people nuts sometimes,
Yeah.
but it's just the way I'm wired.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you're on a podcast, and I can't say that for a lot of farmers that just hop on a business or a marketing podcast. So I think you're already branching out and showing that that definitely is your personality just by doing that.
And that's the funny part, because I associate as a farmer,
Yeah.
and yet I love business.
Yeah.
I absolutely love businesses. P&L, I love finances. My bed sheets are spreadsheets. I love finances. I love marketing. I love leadership and management, operations. I love all that stuff, and have developed some skills around it. And yet there is still the farming that keeps me humble
Yeah.
and keeps me grounded, and is definitely something I'm passionate of as well.
Yeah, for sure. So when it comes to the farming, like, you do all this other stuff, is there still time that you get to go outside and actually do some farming still, or are you pretty
No,
much just
no,
operations at
not
this point and you're like, all right,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, pretty much just operations. I don't last year was an exception. We had a rough year last year, and I had to be on the harvester all year, every day.
oh
It
well,
was speaking about prison,
Yeah.
the our main harvester operator decided to leave right when we started our season in May to become an electrician, and he's a good guy, and I'm still friends with him.
Yeah.
His son as a student still works with us, and I believe is actually taking my daughter to prom
Oh.
later. Yeah, so again, neighbor, it's all good, no ill will, right?
Yeah. And you might have a
There's no
good
time for that.
electrician on your hands in the future if you need one.
Yeah, exactly. My father would say, "Don't cut off your nose to spite your face." Um, but I was forced because of that. I was forced to be in the harvester all year, which was almost 7 days a week, and many days from 2 a.m. to 5 p.m. It was very tough. It was very difficult. But that is outside the norm. That's so normally I'm in the office. I'm walking around the yard. I'm talking to clients. I don't hit the road very often, but I'm very, very much always in business operations mode.
Hmm.
Either
Makes
working on the business or working in the business. It's very rare for me to be out in the field.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That makes
hmm
sense. So yeah, I'm guessing on the harvester, there's not a laptop stand. You can't sit there on the harvester while you're working on business and driving through the fields.
No, the machine's like the harvester's like 400 grand,
Yeah.
and there's two joysticks with 20 buttons on each joystick
Oh
and
my
two
goodness.
touch computer screens.
Yeah.
And so there is not a second that
You're
you
not paying
are.
attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, like it's difficult to even take a phone call
Yeah.
when you're operating.
That's fair. Yeah, I was doing the huge roller. I was flattening asphalt and dirt. Just like they were just basically, I was working construction, just doing all the photography and stuff. But they're like, "Hey, hop on here and do it." So I did it for like 2 hours, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so slow, but so like mind numbing because you're focusing the whole time. You're like one tiny mistake, and I can literally crush a car." Like...
Yep, exactly. But you made me think of something where you were saying about business advice, and this is something that I've worked really, really hard on is make sure when you're in the position in your business to not be stuck in the business.
Yeah.
Don't be, and that's especially my main experiences with the family business. Even though we have acquired the other one in the city, but the when you are trained and you're brought up in the business to be the jackknife, to be the
Hmm.
jack of all trades, to be the one that can essentially, oh, something needs fixed in the shop, the mechanic's off, go get go get Jared. Oh, the guy in the harvester called in sick today. Oh, this manager's gone. Oh, da, da, da. When you're when you're brought up because you needed to be know all aspects of the business to have your finger on the pulse,
Hmm.
it's very easy to get trapped doing all the things in the business.
Yeah.
And and even though you love the business, you just, even though you have a strong passion, it's what you're meant to do, it can still feel like a prison. And in order to make that change, it takes a lot of intentionality. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of structure. It takes a lot of planning. It takes a lot of communication because there are old habits that need to be overcome. There are old, um, just processes. There's new systems that need to be developed. It's huge to change the business so that it doesn't revolve around you.
Yeah. No, that's very fair. So as like a business owner and a farmer, are you working 7 days a week for the most part, or do you get that time to like have a weekend or whatever days you do want to take off? Like, do you get those, or are you pretty much like, hey,
Do you ever
I'm
listen to Dan Martell? You ever hear Dan Martell?
I don't think so. I feel like I'd know
Dan
his
Martell
face if I
is
saw him maybe, but
yeah, yeah, he's a business tycoon. He's Canadian and he's my business coach.
okay.
M many levels above where I am right now.
Yeah.
But just a phenomenal guy and incredibly intelligent when it comes to all things business. And I like his ideology. It's like, what does retirement look like for you? Does retirement look like sitting on a beach forever? Or, sitting in the kitchen sipping on coffee and, wondering, watching the news or something like that? Or does it look like being involved? Does it look like still maybe being involved somehow in a business and making some decisions, but also having the freedom to do that maybe as you're sitting on a cruise ship? and
Mm-hmm.
you open up the laptop for an hour to take care of a few things, and then you go back and enjoy your trip and your family. Um, does it do you really want a job in a life that you can escape from and just close up shop for the day, or is it something that you want to be involved in? I am definitely, and there is no wrong answer. There
Mm-hmm.
isn't. But for me, not from a power, like a control standpoint, but I love business so much that I don't. So do I get days off? Yes. I'll give you an example. This past Saturday, my three kids were all in the same hockey arena, all in the same day, which if you are a hockey parent,
Yeah.
you know how rare and awesome that is, that you don't have to be playing taxi to different arenas and split and dividing and conquering amongst the kids and figuring out meals and everything. It is wonderful. Um, and so I didn't have to work that day. I didn't have to work back at the barn. I had a student work back at the barn, pick eggs. It's March, so we're not cutting sod. We're not worrying about anything like that, which is a wonderful time of year, and we haven't started tapping maple trees for maple syrup. There was still a clog and in one of the feeding chains for the
Okay.
chickens.
Yeah.
So the student went in, identified it, sent me a message. No problem. Went back 5 or 10 minutes, so it was something easy, solved it, showed him, complimented him on his critical thinking, and made a little video of it for future reference for training and stuff like that. Went on
Nice.
with the day. I don't mind that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
okay with that. Would I have preferred that the student know how to see it and then solve the problem on his own? Absolutely. But it didn't ruin my day that I had to go back to the barn for 5 or 10 minutes to do something business related. It didn't. It was just part of the day.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. So I think that's a very personal question.
Yeah.
Um, but it is about balance too, because like I said about the harvester, I was forced to work every day.
Mm-hmm.
I had no choice. If I didn't show up to work, I couldn't get sick. I couldn't go on vacation. I couldn't travel. My mom had stage 4 colon cancer, and I couldn't travel to go see her to give her a hug during the entire treatment,
Jeez.
and be with her. So that was trapped.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't living. That wasn't what my ideal work-life balance is. And I
Yeah.
refuse to be put in that situation again.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a long way to answer a short question, sorry, because I think it's very important to understand the context.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I love podcasting because you get to ask simple questions and just expand for a long time and get so much more information than you would have from any other format. Like if
Yeah.
you if you put
So
that in a LinkedIn post, like just in text, like that would be 50 days worth of LinkedIn posts right there just to get that one thing out. Whereas on a podcast, like it could be one conversation and I get all that info, which is wonderful.
yeah. No, so it's very personal. It's very
Mm-hmm.
personal. Now, in April, I'm taking a week off, and I haven't had a full week off, like truly, truly away from the operation because of the crisis that we had to deal with last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Understandably, as a one-off. This isn't the norm, but I'm taking a week off in April, and I'm taking my family and my in-laws, and we're all going down south,
Okay.
which is go and I'm being on a beach.
Yeah.
I'm going to play with my kids. I'm going to walk and have a glass of wine with my wife, and I'm going to 100% focus on them. Will
Yeah.
I check the odd email to make sure they don't build up when I'm gone? Absolutely. And does everybody know not to bother me? Absolutely. If there's an emergency and something goes wrong and I'm the only person on the face of the planet that can solve it, by all means, please send me a text message
Mm-hmm.
and let me take 5 or 10 minutes to walk you through it and solve it so that business and work can go on.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to taking time off, but then it's just that's my viewpoint of it. That's my philosophy on it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, if you like what you're doing, if that gives you the energy of just doing that operational stuff, I mean, it probably doesn't feel like work all the time, which is nice, especially when you get those moments where you solve a problem and you're like, "Hey, that's good." And then that's good for the future too.
Can I dive in on that for a second?
Please do.
Last year, you caught me with the word moments.
Yeah.
And last year was so stressful and so much anxiety that I had to force myself to look for the blessings, to look for the moments, right?
Yeah.
Even though I didn't innately feel it. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel joy when I saw maybe my 8-year-old playing fastball because I'd been up since 1 o'clock 2 in the morning cutting sod. I didn't finish work till 5 p.m. and then had a quick supper and went straight to the ball field. But I knew it was important to stop and at least look at it, to
Mm-hmm.
recognize that this is something that's important that you'll never get again. Um, and I did that repeatedly, again and again, to the habit where it became a habit of looking for the moment, look for the joy, even if you don't feel it.
Mm-hmm.
My wife 2 weeks ago complimented me, and she said, "I don't know when you did it," she said, "but you are so good at recognizing when there's a blessing and stopping to appreciate it."
Mm-hmm.
She said, you're one of the best I know for just being able to be in the moment and enjoy that." And somewhere along the line, that habit joy became joyful again.
Mm-hmm.
Blessings became a blessings again. And now I see it and I'm able to appreciate it everywhere, including work.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm driving along in one of the fields and I see an amazing sunrise. I can actually stop and appreciate it for 30 seconds. Maybe I have an incredible conversation with one of my managers about how to and coached him in a certain situation and he did it and he executed perfectly and now I've helped him build up his confidence and skill set. Awesome.
Yeah.
Celebrate when you can learn to appreciate the moments and celebrate the little wins, no matter where you are, at home, at work, anywhere, it's a game changer for your life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I'm gonna say that's a great way to end it. But I do have one more question for you that on the personal side before I let you go, and then I would definitely love to
Yeah.
have you back in the future because I have about 5,000 more, and I think could definitely learn from some of your other stories. But you probably don't know this one yet. But as far as your kids go, are they showing interest in the family business? Like just by talking to you, I know you're not the kind of person that would just throw it at them, and be like, "All right, you need to do this." But are they showing interest in it, or is there a certain side of it that they like, or how's that experience for
That's
them?
Man, it's pretty early yet. All right. So the oldest is 16.
Okay,
The youngest is 3 out of the 5 kids. And so they have all been involved in the business at some point and as either free we don't call it child labor around here, we call it farming,
fair.
right? And so no, but all joking aside, they have worked and earned money on at the different businesses. Maybe they work part-time at my sister's greenhouse or they've helped me pack eggs back at the barn. Or I know last year when I was in the field so much, my oldest boy was on the forklift for many evenings or weekends, lining up the piles of sod for the trucks for the next day.
Yeah.
So they have all had a lot of experience within the different businesses, not to the point of cruelty. Not to the point of forcefulness.
Mm-hmm.
We will not allow that.
Yeah.
But to the point of work ethic and to the point of contribution and to the point of understanding truly understanding what it is to be a part of a family business that is also agriculturally related because you have to make hay when the sun shines, no matter what.
Yeah.
It has things sometimes it just has to get done. And if things break and if things go wrong, it doesn't matter. It just has to get done. So we've done our best to involve them in the businesses to the point where nobody has been me at 13 years old and sat me down at the table and gone, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
I want to join the family business. Not one of them has. But my sister didn't either. My sister didn't know she wanted to join the family business until she was 20.
Okay.
And so do I see glimpses of the interest here and there? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Have I seen where somebody has sat down with me and gone, yes, this is what I want to do? Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. But I fully support any direction that they want to take. Whether it's creating their own business, joining the family business, both doing their own thing that has nothing to do with us. But at least I know that when they're making that decision, they know everything about what we do and who we are. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that if they do choose to work for somebody else or they do go on their own path, they're still going to be set up for success with the skills that they're gaining now and bring that to wherever they go in life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And as a former child laborer over here, I loved working when I was a kid. Like I worked at my neighbor's print shop. I worked at her. She owned a Avalon Parrot shop, and I worked there. And then I had a paper route. It was just fun. So I'm sure your kids are having a blast. And I mean, being on a farm sounds a lot more fun than being in a print shop, but being in a print shop was also fun. So, well, Jared, I really appreciate having you here. Thank you for all the stories and all the time. I have a million questions, and like I told you, I think last week, my girlfriend and I are hoping to get some chickens or some ducks in our backyard eventually here. So I'll definitely be asking you some advice on that.
No problem. Feel free to shoot me a message.
Will do. And yeah, where can people find you if they're looking for you? Whether it be your sod farms or any of your other businesses or just Jared Hamilton, where can people get you?
I think this the easiest way to find all of that is on my LinkedIn. I've been building my LinkedIn profile, and I know LinkedIn is a hit or miss for a lot of people, but it's definitely where I've been building my space. I'm associated with all the businesses there. I post daily, so if you want to hear a lot of my stories, I basically tell a life story every single day. I have 1,000 of them, and somehow related to business and leadership and family. So if you want to check out the businesses, if you want to see more of what my life is about on a day-to-day basis, just hit me up, Jared W. Hamilton on LinkedIn.
Sounds perfect. And I will put Jared's link in the description of the podcast and any posts that I put out so people can get to you easily. But once again, my friend, appreciate you joining me and definitely look forward to talking to you soon. And good luck with the week off. I hope it's fun in April and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Take care.
You as well.